I'm Toma Clark Haines, founder of the Republic of Toma and CEO of the Antiques Diva & Co. Okay, so today we're going live, or rather, I should say tonight we're going live with Andrea Hysmith of ASH Interiors. And I see she's already there, and I've got the Prosecco warmed up because tonight is the Prosecco Power Hour. Going live with a Okay, now when I say the Prosecco Power Hour, what I mean to say is that for the next 30 minutes, we're going to power through some Prosecco and we're going to talk about all things vintage
It
and antique.
is the Prosecco Power Hour.
Prosecco Power Hour. You look adorable, by the way.
Do I?
Yeah, you look
I
so
thank
cute.
you for that.
Okay,
I decided to give you vintage.
Wait, say that again.
I decided to give you vintage since we're talking about vintage versus antique. I thought I would give you a little Studio 54, a little.
In fact, I'm going to call that retro. You've got like a totally retro vibe. That's
so we should talk about that because there's vintage, there's antiques, there's retro, there's what? There's estate, there's, oh my gosh, all of that. Don't you look like sunshine?
Oh, thank you. I'm opening something here. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, open.
Twist and turn. I still get scared of the sound after all these years. Here we go. Oh wait, one more.
Oh my gosh.
There we go. Now
look, we should be used to it by now.
You know, you would think that I would no longer be afraid. I've opened enough bottles over time that I shouldn't be afraid, but I am. Okay.
Well, cheers. I started early because I feel like this is the 57th Monday in a row.
Holy Moses, what is going Okay, wait. I know what's going on. Mercury is retrograde, and I feel it every hour of the day.
Is it really? Because that means it's been in retrograde for all of 2020 and 2021.
Okay, in fact, 2021 it was retrograde. 2020, I think it was retrograde 3 times, and this is now the 2nd time of this year. But it just started like a couple of days ago. Wait.
See those dang on Geminis. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Love it. How are you? Happy Tuesday.
God, I'm better now. It has been
right.
You heard my voice. Like you've gotten a couple of voice
messages
from me when I've bothered to respond because I'm like 7 days late responding 90% of the time these days. I sound like a stressed maniac. You've been very kind.
It's our reality. It's our reality, and that's okay because we're going to be together in 16 days, which is insane.
Wait. Oh my God!
I'm excited. We're going to shop in the south of France. So I've been looking for outfits.
Yes, tell me.
And it's been a failure, but it's okay. So these shoes arrived, and I was so excited about them. And the wrong color came. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even order them myself. My person at Neiman's ordered them. And I texted him and I said, wrong color. And he's like, oh, crap. I'm like, that's the whole reason, I didn't buy them that day.
Like, what part of France do you not understand? Me in France after a year and a half of COVID restrictions.
Exactly. First trip. I know. I do. I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the look. So
okay, well, I'm certain that you are going to be beautiful no matter what you're in. By the way, your new your new Facebook photos with you in the little denim shirt and the little sassy little fitted body conscious suit. I'm like, or body conscious dress. Like you're looking sassy. Like seriously, I mean,
what is happening? Like you think I'm like ready to be out in these streets since the world opened back up.
We are all ready for these streets to open back up. Like that's all.
We are. Okay. We are.
So
we have what? We have like 23 minutes to.
Exactly. We have stuff to do. Although I'm 2 minutes late coming on, so technically we may have 25 minutes because I was 2 minutes late. I got a text message waiting for all day, literally the second that I was trying to go live, and I'm like, I'll call you back later.
Of course.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the difference between vintage and antiques. And I think we need to do vintage, antiques, and retro as to compare the three. But
Right.
next week, maybe what we do next week, maybe we should have a conversation on Parlez-Vous French flea market.
I think that's perfect because you know I've been Googling places. So I think that's good.
I think that's,
I
so
think that's
not next week,
perfect.
it would be 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks, the 15th, it will be our Paris Eve.
Oh, Paris Eve. I like that. Okay, wait. So I'm on the 15th. I'm going to be driving from Venice to the south of France. So I'm going to be in the
Oh,
car
wow.
at 8 o'clock that night. We may need
Huh.
to, can we make an exception and do it on a Monday night? Do you think anyone cares if we do Monday instead of Tuesday? Is it
You
totally?
know what? I think it just gives people another reason to have champagne on a Monday versus a Tuesday.
Voila. Cheers to
There we
that.
go.
Okay, by the way,
Cheers to that. Look, I've
for,
already drank. Look at that. I need to like already top off.
okay,
We
so
haven't even started talking yet.
you needed it. It was clear. I mean, as I said, you heard my voice. You said you've had 57 Mondays in a row.
Right. Because nothing is coming. Nothing. Nothing. And I really think that, so some of my clients are being wonderful and I feel terrible. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like one, she's been living with her dad for 4 weeks because a week before the cabinets were due, they got a 4 to 6 week extension. A week before.
Mama mia.
So no work is happening. We like nothing. Now I have some other clients that are waiting for stuff, but it's not interrupting. Like they're still in their homes. It's like, okay, your dresser's not here. You have a dresser. It's not a big deal. But it is a big deal because, you know, people want their stuff and
Yeah,
I want to give them their stuff and I want to bill them. So,
yeah,
you know, we're
exactly. Amen. Amen to both those things.
right. So, you
Congratulations.
know,
Everyone's happy.
exactly. You know what's going to happen? Everything's going to arrive when I'm with you.
Oh yeah, totally. Murphy's Law.
Yes.
It's
And
Murphy's.
we'll be shopping and then I'll get products.
Okay, we will
So
be shopping for antiques, which there's no lead time required on antiques. You see it,
no lead
you
time
buy it.
required. So
Exactly.
talk to me. If someone, now I don't know if they do this in Italy and Europe, you know, people will sometimes say, oh, antique, they'll say vintage, they'll say collectible, whatever. You know, do you find that you get asked that question, like, what is the difference? Or is it, you know, pretty straightforward
No, for
to
sure.
you?
Here in Europe, we're not really asked the question because I think Europeans understand it. Europeans are
Right.
bored like with antiques, like it's just part of their culture. Like you
Mm-hmm.
think about the classic English country home. The classic English country home is like layers and layers of antiques because every generation buys and brings things into the home. And
Right.
most of my European friends, I think almost every single one of my European friends has at least one antique in their home, if not a
Oh,
house full, because it's
okay.
family pieces. They have possessions. And one of the things that I think is amazing is one time in Berlin, I had a friend who's a film director in Berlin, and his business partner is located here in Italy. And they were at my house for dinner one night, and Roberto comes in, and he immediately looks up and he goes, "Oh, I love your Baroque painting," and like immediately started discussing the painting. And
Oh,
like
wow.
he works in cinema, and my friend in Berlin, he goes, "How do you know?
Why do you know that?
Like, how do you know that's a Baroque painting? How do you know what that is?" And he goes, "Well, I thought everybody knew." And we started discussing the fact that when you grow up in Italy, you're growing up traveling, you're seeing these different churches, these cathedrals, these frescoes. You grow up with art as such a part of your culture. It is like something that we as Americans, we're so young, we don't have that same sense of history that stays
Very
with.
true. Very true. Very true. So age is one of the key factors of an antique, right?
That's the perfect lead-in question there, by the way. I just taught myself
You
that.
like that?
Okay, wait.
You like that?
In fact, I
Should I just
specifically
should I
chose
just
this
drink
glass.
from the bottle?
Okay, in fact, I'll join you. Just the better angle.
Cheers to
Cheers to
you see what kind of day we're having, you guys?
Oh my,
We're having that kind
57
of day.
Mondays in a row. 57 Mondays in a row. Okay.
There we go.
So, in fact, I chose this glass intentionally because it is a good example of vintage. Now behind me, I am sitting on an antique chair. So I have props for today's conversation. You know,
I love it.
I like props.
So antique is over 99 years old.
Over 100 years old. Exactly. To
100
officially
years old.
classify antique, it needs to be 100 years old.
Okay.
And the key classification, especially according to customs, because when you're importing antiques into America, if it's over 100 years old, you're not having to pay import duties on it, import taxes on it.
Well, look
And
at
so
that.
this can save you some money. So not only are we saving you
See?
time, we're saving you money now. Cheers.
So over 100 years old. And it's great because of customs, because you don't have to pay any taxes on it. And if I actually purchased antiques for clients right now, the stuff would be here because it already exists.
Okay,
It's been around for 100 years.
Delivery time still. So, I mean, you have to take that into consideration, whether it's delivery time in Europe or if you're buying from in the States. And I will say there's a reason for when you buy in the States and a reason for when you buy in Europe. If you're buying more than 5 pieces, then I would say buy in Europe, because then you have enough on 5 pieces. Even when you pay for the shipping, you're still like saving money.
It balances out.
It balances out cost of shipping.
Okay.
If you're buying less than 5 pieces when it comes to shipping, you're not going to really save money by buying in Europe. You just have a much broader selection. So that's in general when I'm working with a designer. If they're looking for one piece, I tell them, go like look locally, look on First Dibs, look on Cherish, go to your antique shop, like look local. If you're more than 5 pieces, that's when you start saving money and being able to make money on antiques as an interior designer if you're transferring, importing antiques. Okay.
And we want to make money.
And it's all about the money. If we're not making money, it's just a hobby. And I got to tell you,
say that again a little bit louder for the people in the back.
You're not making money, it's just a hobby.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's the key thing. Every time a customer says something, I'm going to use that quote. Toma said.
As a matter of fact, you can have it. You can put your own name on it. You own it. I'm going to own it. We own it together.
Right. I got to pay this lease.
Exactly.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So vintage is it 20 or 25 years to 99?
I think 20 to 99, but honestly, now there's another category that I call, since you're going to be in France soon, I'm going to say this, presque, almost.
Ooh.
Presque antique. Almost antique. And
the reason I asked that question is because, okay, so 20 years, we're in 2021, which is insane. In my head, I can't accept that vintage is 2000.
Oh my God.
Like, I cannot accept that. Like, when you really think about it, I don't even want to call the 80s vintage. Like, I don't mind saying that a 1970s, 74 DVF dress is vintage. I'm okay with that. But to say that leg warmers from the 80s is vintage, I can't receive that in my spirit.
I know. It is traumatizing to think of that. It's also, like when you hear golden oldies. Do you remember the golden oldies? Well, the golden oldies are now like the music of our youth. I mean, like when I was a teenager.
I'm not receiving that either. Nope. I'm not claiming that either, Toma. Nope.
I was like, no, like this is not possible. Like Madonna's a golden oldie. No, Madonna is not she's
absolutely
not
an
oldie, but she's not a golden oldie. I mean, come on.
I know, and that's the thing. Think about it. If you're really saying that 20 to 99 years is vintage, that means that 2001 is vintage. I graduated from college in 1999, and I'm sorry, but we're not vintage yet. Like, we're not.
We're halfway to antique almost. I mean,
I know we're halfway to antique.
But no, we're almost halfway to antique. Okay, so what I say, I my own classifications. Other people don't.
Okay.
These are my rules. These are like the antiques. I say 100 years or over is antique. I say 8 years or over is almost antique. And when I'm writing my purchase orders for shipping, I classify it as an antique. Like I'm saying,
Okay.
if it's 8 years or older, come on, it's almost antique. As I said, presque antique. Now,
I love that. I love it.
The next category would then be retro, which would technically be less than 20 years. But
Okay.
to me, I'm now traumatized. I'm going to have to change my whole classification system because of
I
2001.
know. Like to me, retro is going to be, I will give retro category 80s. And I really don't even want to say 90s, but let's just say 80s and 90s are retro. 80s are retro. Okay.
So honestly,
Say that one more time.
did anything really good come out of the 90s?
No, that's my point. Like, I don't want anything. I don't want 90s furniture. I don't want 90s. I want 90s music.
Okay.
90s music is 90s music. I can give it to you, but I don't want 90s furniture and I don't want 90s outfits. Like I've seen, I mean, let me just put it this way. Do you remember Clueless? Do you remember the movie Clueless?
Yeah.
I was Dion. I was plaid mini skirts, Mary Janes, and knee socks.
You were so cute. You were rocking those knee socks.
I was. I really was. But I don't want it back.
No, I don't blame you. I'm trying to think 90s. So, I grew up in Oklahoma. So, I mean, 90s, I was probably wearing Rocky Mountain. There are these jeans called Rocky Mountain somethings. And they actually made your butt look amazing. So I would bring them back. Yeah.
Were you wearing flannel? Were you wearing flannel?
Never.
You didn't.
Never
in my head, you're in Oklahoma and you're wearing flannel. That's what I think.
Okay. I kind of rocked the Daisy Dukes. I totally could rock the Daisy Dukes. But no,
did you really?
And then I may have had plaid, but no, I was usually a little chicer on top.
Okay. So you had the fabulousness in you. You knew you were going to get out of Oklahoma one day.
Oh, yeah. Okay. As soon as we hang up, which we've now got like 10, 11 minutes. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to post in the stories a photo of me in the 90s.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. That means I have to find one. I have to immediately text my mom. Yeah. Okay.
Let's say instead of immediately, within the next 24 to 48 hours. That gives your mom time.
We'll do that. We'll make our vintage post since we're vintage.
we are fully vintage. And I'm just saying.
I'm so sad. I'm so sad that we're vintage.
My hair will fit on Instagram. It's too big for the Instagram screen.
Look, if I move my phone away, you see part of my hair. Okay. That's vintage. I'm giving you an homage to Bob Ross circa 1986.
I love Bob Ross. Do you know that Bob Ross paintings are actually super collectible now?
You know what? We just tied into another thing. Vintage, antiques, and collectibles. So I also feel like collectibles in my head are tied to an era and or kind of like a memory. So Nintendo, Super Mario Brothers, the Goonies, like a Goonies t-shirt. Concert t-shirts are collectibles to me. Guns N' Roses, we already said Madonna.
Out of mine. That was great.
So good. What do you think? Is that collectible to you?
I can see those all as collectibles. I think, I have to say, the term collectibles turns me off. So when I hear collectibles or I see collectibles on a store window, I'm like,
okay.
I think it's not going to be something I'm interested in because I can be input. And I'm not a snob, but I can be a snob sometimes.
I think we all can.
Earlier. So off Instagram, we had this whole conversation about how that you can be a hotel snob and I can be a hotel snob. There's a time to be a snob and a time not to. I think if you're going to spend all the time in the hotel room, if I'm going to be having a Mr. and Mrs. Smith weekend, a romantic weekend, and I'm going to be spending bed, I want a really beautiful.
It needs to be fabulous. Yeah. Hint, hint. fabulous hotel if we're going to be in there all weekend.
Exactly.
But if I'm just resting my head and I'm up at sunrise out at the beach, although I don't know, I did stay at a hotel one time, which was a total, like, the pictures look great. One of my girlfriends and I, we did a girls trip, and we walked in, and I didn't say anything at first because I didn't know if she was as much as a snob as I was. And by the time we got to the room, like, I almost broke into tears, and she was like, "This room is terrible." And I was like, "Thank you. I just needed to hear it. I needed to hear that you felt my pain." And so we just, spent a lot of time at the beach.
Yeah.
There we go.
I will say the older I get, the more vintage I become.
Right.
The less patience I have for crappy hotels. Like,
Absolutely.
it's,
First of all, rule number one is it needs to be better than my house.
yes. Agreed.
If it's not better in my house, then I can stay home.
Yeah, exactly.
And I always sleep better in hotels in general because A, it's better than my house. B, I don't have to clean anything. I can order room service. I can let them know in advance. Like, in advance, that's probably the one thing I miss the most about, like, with COVID, and still as things are opening up, they still have been a little questionable on room service and on, housekeeping. But I'm like, I need you to pick up my towels. I need you to send me my champagne to the room when I come back from shopping.
Exactly. Okay, so we kind of derailed off of this conversation. So I'm not a snob.
Of course we did.
Collectibles. I think of like precious moment statues, or remember those Yadro statues, or these things that honestly, Yadro are very collectible. People love them. I don't like them at all.
No,
and
I agree.
I think of those corny, like, they're not really limited editions. It's like, okay, they're limited edition, but they happen to make 10,000 per statue. I'm like, that's not
so true.
Yeah. So I tend to be a snob when I hear the term collectibles, which is unfortunate because the things you described, for example, vintage T-shirts, retro T-shirts, collectible T-shirts, I might be interested in. I could do that.
Right.
But I think it depends, because I think that collectible can sound a little bit old lady. So one of the things I always say about at the Antique Steve & Co., we're on a mission to make antiques modern, sexy, fun, accessible, profitable. That's my elevator pitch. Giving it 100.
I love it.
But the key thing is, we are not your grandmother's antiques. And when I hear collectibles, I think of my grandmother's antiques, which were stuff that
That's true.
had that she bought new, those great Art Deco side tables, but I didn't want her Precious Moments collection or teapot collection.
Right. They were all on the shelf collecting dust. I agree. So that's a good point. So we got to think about it that way.
But
we got to think about it that way.
I don't know that that's actually the definition. It's just what it conjures up in my imagination.
Right. But that's what people do. You have words are associated with thoughts and memories. And so that's exactly it. And, as we started the conversation, in Europe, you are raised thinking antiques and you're exposed to it. Here, I think oftentimes you think antiques and you're thinking, oh, it's the old ass chair that nobody really wants, that grandma wants to give you. Not a beautiful piece that can become sexy, modern, get updated, come alive. I personally love a good vintage anything, especially from like the 1950s. I love mid-century modern. I know it's like so overplayed now and so overused now, but I feel like when it's done right, it's done right, And then I love like Harlem Renaissance. Like, I've worked on projects in New York and Brooklyn, and you have these amazing properties that just like, oh my gosh, and having that juxtaposition of the vintage and then the like playing off of the modern elements is so sexy. So you definitely used an accurate description. And that's what we're going to do.
That's what we're so going to do. What you just described, by the way, what I think is the absolute most important thing you can do when using antiques is use the juxtaposition. You juxtapose something. It's opposites attract. They attract opposites attract love as much as they do in antiques, in furniture.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite design word in the world. My daughter actually laughs at me if I find a in to use that word. She does like a full eye roll. I went to this, I was in Charleston and there was a boutique and it was named that. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I want it so bad. But it is. And I think that people often make the mistake of over antiquing, and they don't realize that you can, find a really interesting way to use various patterns and fabrics and pieces and again, make it feel young and make it feel youthful. And that's the reason why they hire designers, because we know how to do that.
You know how. Exactly the point. As a designer, you understand. So, the other day, actually just a week ago on Instagram, I sang the song The Gambler. Do you know the song The Gambler?
Is that Kenny Rogers? Kenny Rogers?
Yes. You got to know when to hold them. Got to know when
you
to
see?
hold them.
Right.
Walk away.
Walk away. Know when to run.
You can sing this in France. Let's plan on doing an Instagram together when you arrive in France and sing this song live. I'm just saying.
We totally should. That's what we'll do. That will be. We'll have bottles in hand in the south of France singing The Gambler. How random is that?
End of a dinner. It's going to have to be at the end of a dinner with a lot of wine. A whole lot of wine to get us to sing. Anyway, my point ties in, by the way. You may think that I'm taking a rabbit trail in our last few minutes, but I'm not. The reason it ties in to what you're discussing as a designer, what mere mortals don't understand when it comes to decorating. They don't know when to hold them. They don't know when to fold them. They don't know. It's that you have, there's a delicate balance that you need to understand everything that's happening at the table, and in order to take that chance on this fabulous piece so maybe it's putting a Rococo piece next to a piece of contemporary art, and it can go wonderfully. But what designers do, designers know all the rules, so they're not gambling. They understand